Yeah, this was promised a while ago, but in order for me to truly be ready to make a video like this, I gotta have a special feeling. One that resonates deep inside of me as a YouTube content creator. What feeling is this, you may be asking? The feeling of rambling, of course. I gotta be in the mood if I want to go on a Survivor-like tangent. And today's tangent is about two of the strongest Pokemon to ever live. The mascots for Scarlet and Violet went above and beyond to make sure that we use these bad boys in some capacity, as they're better than everything that isn't exactly Mega Rayquaza and Carat Shadow Rider in terms of their ability to warp the game around them. These are the two most used Pokemon in Generation 9 Ubers, and Miraidon has gone on record to actually take a Regulation G VGC tournament, which is impressive given how under the radar it was. It and Zamazenta have been eating this generation. Now, with that said, I'm going to keep this organized to some degree, so we're going to cover this in 3 sections. I'm going to explain what the both of them share that makes them so powerful, and then I will go into their individual traits that amp them to competitive success. So let's start with what makes them both stronger than your favorite legendary, probably, and go from there. What they share. Base 135 in 2 stats is absolutely insane. Actually, let's just slap their stats on screen. While they aren't the exact same, it's clear that they in fact made one more physically oriented and the other more special oriented. So slapping their stats on the screen is a good place to start. The next thing that they have in common is their incredibly potent dragon typing, which is one of the best offensive types in the game. So they're already both off to an immaculate start with excellent stats and excellent typings. They both can make excellent use of the choice items in Life Orb because of course they can. Do the similarities between the two end there? Yep, that's basically it. I guess if you want to say they both have a pivot move, thanks to U-turn and Volt Switch specifically, you can. But I want to go more in depth about their ability to fast pivot in their own sections. Because for Miraidon, it's especially important for reasons I'll get to if you haven't figured it out. I'll also be covering their similar signature moves in their own section. They're both incredibly offensive demons capable of mass destruction. Why can't I say that without thinking of Persona 3? Oh yeah, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, baby, baby. Oh, damn it. Alright, so now we have to get into the specifics, and we're gonna start with the Sun Saluter itself having an ability that is just Groudon, but better. Orichalcum Pulse is Drought, but while the sun is up, you get a 33% amp to your attack stat. That's right, they looked at this and they said, what if we gave it free Life Orb with no restrictions? Because we've entered a generation where powerful Pokemon like this are being given no restrictions. And yet, we still haven't seen Regigigas get a new form or new ability that makes it actually usable in the context of being a super legendary. It still angers me that they implemented Slow Start in Legends Arceus. Actual hater energy right there. With this increase in power, combined with its fire attacks now being boosted in Sun, it basically has 3 stabs without needing to terrestrialize, which makes its range of damage incredibly versatile, since a combination of Dragon, Fire, and Fighting hits a lot of Pokemon for either neutral or super effective damage. I'd go on record to say that there isn't a legendary Pokemon available that can consistently switch into it. Multiscale Lugia can do it exactly once, and that's just not good enough. The Pokemon with the highest physical bulk available, being Zamazenta and Calyrex Ice Rider, do not feel like coming in on a Flare Blitz either, regardless of their bulk, which turns Koraidon into even more of a threat. Nothing is coming in on this repeatedly, and the damage is astronomical on the physical side, as well as having a versatile range. But what if I told you it can do even more damage? Well, luckily, it doesn't get access to Dragon Dance, because Dragon Dance would pretty much turn this oversized cave lizard so powerful that every Pokemon ever made would have to get stronger as a result of its creation. It does, however, have ways to boost that attack stat of its. If you thought getting a 33% boost in the sun was bad enough, imagine being able to say, let's double it. And we will not be passing it to the next person. We'll be dealing it to them instead. Because Swords Dance boosted Koraidon just straight up doesn't have a switch in at all. The moment it gets a single sword's dance up, if allowed to, there's a very real chance it just automatically won the battle, regardless of what legendaries your opponent brought. But what if I bring a Scarfer? You might be asking. And that's an excellent question. If that Scarfer isn't exactly a fairy type, then Koraidon doesn't care, because it will use Scale Shot on that Scarfer to boost its speed. And after that, well, it's curtains. That's right. With its already insane stats, it can amplify them even further for an even more potent effect. They saw Garchomp and quite literally made Garchomp 2. If this wasn't the past Paradox form of Cyclezar, the Landshark would have been my guess as to what they took inspiration from. Oh wait, and I haven't even mentioned that if its signature move Collision Course, a base 100 power fighting move, does super effective damage, that's another 33% stacked on there. So if you need math of just how strong that is, here it is doing this much damage to a max defense Arceus. Now, with that said, keep in mind, most people run low kick on it because it's base 120 power against most Ubers due to their weight. And anyone in their right mind does not play Impish on their normal Arceus, nor do they do max defense. But I needed an example here. Now, back on the topic of Sun, this also means that even if Koraidon isn't on the field, it can work as a literal bench warmer thanks to that ability it has. Like all weather setters before it, it can win by doing just about absolutely nothing, because this means that, officially, it isn't just supporting itself. Oh no. So long as that sun is up, the Pokemon that were waiting for it to be up can suddenly become a lot more dangerous than they would be prior. Chi-Yu, any past Paradox Pokemon, which it was designed to synergize with of course, any Chlorophyll Pokemon like Hisui Lilligant or Venusaur, Ho-Oh, Ogerpon Hearthflame, hell, it technically buffs Miraidon because it has access to Overheat. We'll get to that point when we get there though. But yeah, the amount of Pokemon, threatening or not, that Koraidon can make threatening just by existing is rather high. And because it's a weather ability, this gives it a solid matchup into Kyogre. You'd think it would replace Groudon. But on the contrary, they're often on teams together to play two different types of roles while getting Sun Up. They're not competitors. No. They're best friends. Now, is Koraidon better at supporting? Yeah, it gets U-turn. The Groudon got Will-O-Wisp, Spikes, Stealth Rocks, and the ability to switch into Zamazenta without blowing its Terra. Oh yeah, Terras. Now, to make matters worse, Koraidon is an even better Terra abuser than just about anything ever made, as one would expect given that it got introduced alongside the mechanic. If one of your main weaknesses is Fairy, what do you do about it? Well, you Terra into a Resist. What resists Fairy? Fire. What gets buffed in the sun? Fire. What sets up the sun? Well, if you forgot that already, I recommend seeing a doctor. So, because I don't want to tread the same row twice in one day, I'm gonna say that its ability, Hadron Engine, is just an electric terrain version of Orichalcum Pulse. When Miraidon hits the field, it sets up electric terrain. And while that electric terrain is active, Miraidon gets an additional 33% to its special attack. I also want to quickly mention its signature move Electro Drift works the same exact way as Collision Course. However, it's much more spammable than Collision Course because it's actually boosted by Miraidon's electric terrain. With that said, while Koraidon has a lot more depth to its game due to the fact that it basically has 3 stabs and can hit more things for a solid amount of damage, Miraidon takes a lot more of a simple approach. It puts eggs into one basket, that basket being Electric Stab, and then it takes that basket and beats you over the head with it, cracking the eggs all over you and making you look really silly in the process. Miraidon is a Pokemon that can't be switched into at all without the greatest of predictions. It is not as simple as just run a ground type, thanks to its access to the incredibly powerful Draco Meteor, and it is not as simple as just switching to Iron Treads. Because if the Miraidon player calls you out on that, you're getting overheated and losing your Iron Treads. Also, trying to play Iron Treads into modern day Ubers just to beat Miraidon is a really bad gambit, because Iron Treads loses to mostly everything relevant in the tier besides exactly Miraidon. But back in the olden days before DLC, that was what Iron Treads did. However, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, as nice as Overheat and Draco Meteor are, they're not what make Miraidon Miraidon. What makes Miraidon Miraidon is how powerful its electric stab is, especially after it terastallizes electric to get even stronger, assuming it doesn't Terra Fairy to live opposing Draco Meteors instead. So rather than talking about just how gorked its electric stab is, I'm just gonna slap a bunch of calcs on the screen and then we'll go back to the rest of its kit. Yeah, they were all choice specs calcs, some Terra Electric and some not. But that's because choice specs is one of the best items to run on it. Even if you aren't using Overheat, Draco Meteor, or Electro Drift, Volt Switch is particularly amazing on Miraidon thanks to how much damage you get on something just by trying to pivot into a better matchup. That is benign just how much it can get away with. Some will sacrifice this braking power for heavy duty boots to avoid Hazard Chip, or Choice Scarf to try to get the jump on other Miraidon, Koraidon, or Zacian in Zamazenta. But Choice Specs, even if it locks you into a move, is just really good. The ability to potentially kill just about anything relevant after Hazard Chip is part of the allure of this bike, and why it is one of the strongest Pokemon of the modern era. But surely there's gotta be more to it than just hit buttons, right? And the answer is yes. So Miraidon also has stuff like Taunt, Dazzling Gleam, and most importantly, access to Calm Mind and Parabolic Charge. For those who don't know what Parabolic Charge does, it's just electric type Giga Drain. Now hypothetically, imagine a Calm Mind boosted Miraidon spamming an electric move that gives it back HP while still chunking, if not outright KOing whatever Pokemon you were trying to contest it with. Yep, that's right. Bulkier Miraidons exist just to break through and sweep teams by sapping their HP. It is truly mortifying. And then, like any Tapu before it, featuring Rillaboom, it can get terrain going and then do absolutely nothing while its teammates do all the hard work. Because this isn't Sun, there aren't as many relevant targets for it, and Miraidon is a little more limited in what its terrain can support. But there are options there. Most notably, of course, the future Paradox Pokemon. Archlodon if you're on Rain and you're confident, and Kyogre if you're on Rain and you're confident because your can't miss thunders are now boosted. It's not as big of an obvious pull of support, with some people opting to not run things it supports at all and using it more as a standalone mod. The VGC team that won a regional did it, so it's fair enough. Now, myself personally, I like to throw it on teams with Iron Bundle, because that 136 speed boosted by my terrain is pivotal to beating the other Koraidons and Miraidons. Weaknesses. Do these Pokemon have weaknesses? Kinda. Base 135 is incredibly fast even in the context of Ubers. But if they aren't Scarfed or Scale Shot boosted, they do find themselves outsped by like exactly Zacian, Iron Bundle, and Deoxys in terms of relevant targets. And the madmen of this planet might throw Terra Ice Regieleki or Dragapult at you if they're really desperate. In VGC, Calyrex Shadow Rider is also a thorn in their side due to its superior speed. But that's really about it. There are just Pokemon that are faster than them, and some Pokemon can Terra into resists for their more telegraphed moves. But these weaknesses are clearly minor, more so in Smogon Ubers, where they're, the two most used Pokemon, and Calyrex Shadow Rider is banned to AG. In VGC, Calyrex is a lot more of an issue, but even with it being an issue, that doesn't make the Time Dragons any less great. In fact, I think it says something about them that the pool of Pokemon that can take them on is so limited, and in some cases requires specific counterplay. In the grand scheme of it all, the weaknesses they do have are minor and can be worked around in exchange for running a set to beat your checks or having teammates that can beat your checks. And by the way, I have to say checks. A counter is a Pokemon that can switch in, take a hit, and then take another hit, and then win the 1v1. There are no Pokemon that can truly do that, now are there? No. These Pokemon do not have counters, only checks, and they are few and far between. Why? Because they're two of the strongest Pokemon of all time. And I think unless Game Freak makes something obscene in Generation 10, it's gonna stay that way.